of Operations for the Victoria Police, Keith Thompson, says Melbourne has been thrust to the forefront of world terrorism.
Mr Thompson says a large squad of police has been assigned to the case and national intelligence services have been called in to examine the whole range of people who may be suspect.
It's now some 4 hours later after the bomb blasts and police are now trying to assess exactly what happened. Just a few moments ago, Mr Thompson held a press conference.
Well, what are your theories now?
Well, we don't have any real theories at this point. We've got a lot of facts. We don't have a lot of theories.
What are the facts?
Well, the facts are the car exploded outside Russell Street and it's done an enormous amount of damage.
Have any other devices?
There'll be no other devices found. Well, we don't know that. All we've got left with at the moment is a heap of debris, and we've got experts looking at that now. When that's done, we'll know more about that.
Have you established how many car bombs there were?
Well, that's difficult to say at this particular point in time, but I believe what has happened is that there's been a primary explosion and it hasn't exploded all the devices, and they've gone off successively after the primary explosion. But that's only a theory at this time. When the experts have looked, we'll know more about it.
Any connection with a court case on at the Magistrates Court?
No, there's been no conclusions arrived at anything yet. The detectives are working on it now with the intelligence people, and we're very early time yet.
Will extra precautions be taken at police stations around Victoria now?
Well, yes, I think that'll have to happen, at least in the short term, but we'll be looking at security in other areas.
Has anyone phoned to claim responsibility for the...
No, we've had no one yet claim responsibility for it.
Were there any threats beforehand? Anything that may have given you a warning that was going to happen?
No, there were no warnings and no threats.
Kevin Hitchcock is at the scene of the attack live now. Kevin, what's the very latest?
Yes, David. Well, the scene here now could only be described as eerie. Stunned uniformed police are still searching for pieces of wreckage. Members of the various scientific and forensic squads are still scouring for clues. A short while ago, we were able to get a film crew in to have a look at the actual site of the blast, where the car carrying the explosives went up. It caused a great deal of damage to the street and threw wreckage for hundreds of metres. It also caused a lot of damage to the pavement and the building, of course, outside, which was the police complex. Police are still inside the building. They've been finding bits of wreckage inside. All the windows in the street were blown out. The police complex was quite badly damaged, and I'm told that at the moment they're checking because they fear that it might have been structurally damaged and could be unsafe. The intensity of the blast was also such that it damaged pipes underground. Water and gas mains are leaking into the underground railway system, and in fact trains between Museum and Parliament have been stopped. So it was an enormous blast which has shocked everybody here, and in fact the police here, many of them seasoned people, they've seen a lot of crime scenes, a lot of disaster areas, a lot of major crime, and I think they're shocked because it was a blast aimed at them, a terrorist attack on the police and the judicial system. This is Kevin Hitchcock at the corner of Exhibition Street and La Trobe Street in Melbourne, returning all network stations to their studios.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Anyone who wants information about the bomb blast or those who are injured should ring the police advice line on 11573. That's 11573.
The Prime Minister, Mr Hawke, has offered his sympathy to the families of those injured in the blasts.
Mr Hawke said he deplored what had happened and hoped police could find those responsible as quickly as possible.
And Premier John Cain has described today's events as barbaric.
But too late. Two city garbage collectors loaded the bin into their heavy steel truck and started up the compactor. They didn't stand a chance. 2 years later, in 1981, Melbourne's Swanston Street was rocked by a blast which shattered 4 shops, causing more than $1 million damage. 2 men were rushed to hospital with burns to 70% of their bodies. Also, Melbourne 1981, a man killed as he was about to appear in court. Raymond Chuck Bennett was shot in the chest under the noses of police as he was being led along the corridors of the City Court building. A gunman at the top of the staircase pumped 2 bullets into his chest, then escaped across the roofs of the RMIT buildings. Then in 1983, the Army Bomb Disposal Squad was called into action in Davis Street, Kew. It was 2:30 p.m. on Thursday, the 10th of February. A pawnbroker had found a device on the front seat of his car and thought it might have been a practical joke. But this was no joke. Just last year, a bomb went off outside the Melbourne Coroner's Court, this time with no injuries, and also last year, a mysterious explosion at a house in Caulfield. But perhaps the largest chapter written in Australia's history of outrages concerns the family court and family court judges. The first, Judge David Opus, gunned to death outside his Wallara home in June 1980. Then Justice Richard G., whose Belrose home was blown apart in early March 1984. The Parramatta Family Law Court was badly damaged by a bomb blast in the following month. And then in July 84, possibly the worst of the Family Law Court attacks. The wife of 61-year-old Family Court Judge Justice Ray Watson was killed. The family's Greenwich apartment was shaken to the foundations by a bomb triggered to explode as the front door was opened. Although a member of our family law judiciary had been the target, his wife became the innocent victim. But today's attack, although not an isolated incident, stands out as this city's first senseless terrorist action directed at the public at large. Not yet the streets of Beirut, but a big step closer to the madness. That madness that we thought lurked only beyond our shores.
Now, after